Welcome to DS Trucks. It's that time of year again. The sun is setting early. The leaves are falling off the trees. It's mid-October and it's good time to talk about snow plows. This is our Fisher XLS. It's an 8 to 10 snow plow, expanding wings, scoop mode. It's one of the most popular snow plows on the market, and I want to do a quick review of this plow for you and kind of talk about it. Before this, we had a Western Whiteout, a very similar plow to the Fisher XLS, but there are some differences. So, going to this Fisher was because of the stainless steel with the silver truck. Western didn't have the expanding wing plow in stainless steel, so I went with Fisher so I can get the stainless steel look. Does the stainless steel make the plow better? Not necessarily. I mean, yeah, the stainless steel does not rust, but the frame of the plow is steel, regular steel, so it's just the board that's stainless, so it still is gonna pretty much most likely last the same amount of time. I will say the black kind of hides rust a little bit better. I know for sure when they updated these plows from the original whiteout design, they really increased the frame in this area, because the first whiteout that I had was starting to bend a little bit in this area from the torsion or torque or whatever, and the paint was chipping because the metal had flexed a little bit. With this one, there's a lot of ribbing here, and this is not flexing at all, and it's just really solid. So I think this plow will last a long time. Corrosion is not really going to be an issue, I don't think, because everything's so heavy, so thick, and it's just not going to be a problem. But like I said, we went to Fisher. The Fisher has the minute mount too. It has these pins that go in through there, and it's not as good as the Western Ultra Mount system. The Western system is known in the market to be the best to hook up. Now, I will say it seems like it's more secure than the Western. The Western got a little loose after a couple years. It felt like it was a little bit looser after a couple years compared to this Fisher. It's still tight, and I've been pushing with it for 2 years, so it's still tight connection and it feels more secure. But one thing that can happen is you could easily forget to misalign one of these pins. So you got to hear 2 clicks, so you could only have 1 click, and you've got to really come on both sides and make sure both pins get fully inserted. So if you're new to this, it really is a process to walk around and make sure both those pins went all the way through, or else you could drop half of the plow, and I did do that one time. There is no down pressure. It's held down by gravity, but it's about 1,000 pound of a plow, so it's not a big deal. The difference too with the Western, it did not have this return spring to pull down the cylinder. I don't know why you need that return spring. Look like I got some corrosion here, but it does have a return spring. That is a difference. But you know, overall, the real difference, the main functional difference between this and the Western version is the fact that this uses a trip edge and the Western version uses a trip blade. So in the Western, the whole blade will trip if you hit an obstacle. The whole blade will tip, and this one, just the edge will tip. The benefit that I found with having the trip edge is the comfort. You know, using this plow, if you plow in streets, if you plow a street, or anything where there's a lot of tripping involved, say you're plowing a road and it's got some decent speed to it, every once in a while I'll plow my street, and when this trips, because less mass is tripping, it's less noticeable. It's almost like not noticeable, where with the whiteout plow, every time that board tripped and built up all that momentum and slapped back, it was kind of a teeth-chattering experience. So you get a lot less fatigue because of the edge tripping instead of the whole board tripping. Now, it is advertised to retain the load of snow. It retains the load, according to Fisher. So you won't lose your load when using a Fisher trip edge versus a trip blade. Now, I don't really know if that's necessarily true in practice. In my experience, if you hit something hard enough, the whole blade will jump up in the air, and you'll still lose your load. So I felt like I was actually losing less of a load when I had the whiteout plows, because when that plow would bend like that, with the whiteout plow, it really never tripped enough to lose a load because it has so much spring tension. It probably could have used a shock on the whiteout plow. I think that would have been nice, but it had so much spring tension that, particularly in low speed maneuvers, when it built up that pressure, it would build it, and you know, like, okay, let me back up and let this pressure come back slow, because if I let this pop back, it's gonna bang really hard. So, it most of the time the whiteout has such tight springs that there wasn't a whole lot of tripping. Sometimes it would vibrate kind of weird when it's scraping the right texture or the right little bit of moisture on the ground. If it's light snow, it would just like make this loud uh grind that would like travel throughout the cab, because the blade, when it's on those springs, it would kind of like almost like reverberate through the frame of the truck. It was kind of annoying in low speed maneuvers, whereas this trip edge, it's so much quieter inside the cab and easier on the operator as far as fatigue is concerned. And now with the whiteout, I did notice a huge benefit to the scoop functionality is that annoying rattle. Like if you just drag the plow across the right kind of surface, it just kind of across the ground. Very annoying inside of the cab, but the scoop mode eliminated pretty much all of that on the whiteout. So my favorite mode to plow with the whiteout was scoop mode, because as soon as you put everything straight, it would go across the ground. But in scoop mode, because the poly kind of leads the blade and it makes that scoop, it really would kind of almost squeegee the ground a little bit. That the poly would kind of protect the ground and kind of make it a more pleasurable experience just by having that whiteout and scoop. Now this one, the XLS, it plows better if it's in scoop or not. It doesn't make as big a difference. So with this plow, I find myself using the 8-foot mode the most, because some of my lots, they are either pitched too much, they have too much of a pitch for the water drainage down to the sewer or whatever, or whatever. And being in the bigger molds means that I leave a little bit of snow behind, because the blade's just bigger, and if you hit something with a bigger blade, then it's going to lift it up. So I use the 8-foot mode a lot, and I use scoop mode a lot. I feel like if you get one of these plows with no experience, like I did when I started with the whiteout, it can hold you back a little bit, because you end up using that scoop mode too much. And this plow, at the end of the day, you still want to wind roll. You still want to know the most efficient, pathways through the lots. And I feel like the last year or so, I really started to get fast, and it kind of came with the understanding that I'm scooping too much and too often. Like I'm thinking in the terms of scooping too much instead of in the terms of just pushing with a straight blade. So I feel like the best way to learn how to plow is going to be with a straight blade, and then you could incorporate like a V plow or a scoop plow after that. I feel like if I would have started off with a V plow, I would have been really slow, just because I would always be putting in V and messing with the wings and all that. What I've learned with this is not to mess with these wings too much, because it's just a waste of time. It's better for me just to drop that plow. I'll scoop it. I'll press the scoop button, but my main thing is to get on the site and get the plow on the ground. So, 8 to 10 foot plow, it is nice to have. It's not the end of the world. If you really just are going back and forth, is it going to save you the world of time? I don't think it will. I just think it's nice to have kind of a cool plow. It does make the job funner, because you have stuff to kind of play with, and that does make it a little bit funner, but it's not the end of the world to have it. But back to the how does this compare to a whiteout? The whiteout had a pivot frame, so it had a moving joint between, I think it was either like in here or in here somewhere, where the blade could tip. The blade would tip like this. I didn't like that. It got loose after a while. It's supposed to help you like contour the ground. I don't know. I didn't like it. This plow is way more solid, heavier built, a bit more heavier built than the than the whiteout in terms of the frame here. This frame section doesn't have any extra pivots or anything, so it stays tighter longer. And in my opinion, it's a more commercial grade plow. One area where the whiteout has this plow beat is the overall stacking on the whiteout is higher. Now, I do notice that with the whiteout, as I would run into the pile of snow, the blade had a tendency to go up with that pile of snow more so than this plow. This plow, when I hit a pile, the blade has a tendency to try to go through that pile. Whereas with the whiteout, it would kind of hit the pile and it would tend to generally go up the plow or up the snow. So it made it, for me with the whiteout, it made it significantly easier to stack. With this one, I feel like I'm waiting on the hydraulics to lift the plow, and with the whiteout, for whatever reason, it could be because it's a trip board, or it could be because of the trip edge. This has a trip edge. I'm not exactly sure, but when you hit a pile with the whiteout, maybe because of the trip board, it will kind of ride up the snow. This one, not so much, so it does slow you down a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if you put this plow in a lot with a whiteout, if the whiteout in a small lot with a lot of stacking, if the whiteout ended up being quicker. And I wonder, because if I lost a hydraulic line or this main cylinder for any reason, it might be kind of hard to run this into a pile. I'm sure I could run it into a pile to get it to go up a little bit, but it doesn't tend to have the tendency to go like up the pile like the whiteout did. Now, that being said, the stacking on this plow is not as high as a whiteout plow. So when this goes up, there are stops right here to prevent the plow from going too high. Because if the plow is allowed to go all the way up, the chain here will hit this box, and this is turned to the side so that it can allow for this minute mount stuff. So it's not actually even able to go as high as the whiteout plow. It's like the whiteout was just stacked higher than this plow, and it is what it is. You know, the price you pay to go stainless. Now, like I said, there's pros and cons. I wish there was a way for them to like bring all the pros into one area. Even if the hydraulics can't take the plow up to the last little couple inches or whatever, if somehow, because the chain here is in the way, if somehow we could figure out how to get that last little bit out of this plow so it can stack better, and if we could figure out, does it need to have a trip board with the trip edge, like some Boss plows have a trip edge and a trip board, or what does it need, and why doesn't it really have the tendency to go up the pile, kind of like the Western did? So those would be my main two complaints. You know, it doesn't quite stack as high, and it doesn't tend to ride up the pile, but it does push. You know, it pushes really hard, and you know, I don't know how often you want to push a full pile, but you know, at the end of the day, it'd still be nice if it went up a pile. Headlights are good. I didn't get the updated LEDs. They were not out when I got this plow, but I am interested in those if I could find a plow with it. I don't know if I'm going to upgrade this one. I think it's kind of a complicated process, so I'll probably just have to end up going for the full plow. But it might be an issue with going with the LEDs and not upgrading, because I think there might be an issue with the actual controller. I'm not sure if you can just have one plow be LED and the other one not. So I have to look into that. The connecting is not as good as the whiteout, but I feel like the pins are bigger. So the pins are much heavier than they are on the whiteout. They're thicker pins, how thick those pins are. But it's not, like I said, it's not that hard to misalign this plow and not have both pins. And you end up having to push on this headgear quite a bit to get the pins in. So it's weird. It's like you're not bending over as much as you are with the minute mount 2. You don't have to go on both sides. like the mini mount 2. Well, you kind of do, because you kind of got to go over here and look. But it's kind of personal preference. I mean, it's pretty close to as easy to pull in. The mini mount 2 is going to be a little bit easier to actually physically drive into. But, you know, this is pretty close. A lot of guys end up putting their shoulder right here to try to lift up. I might put a piece of foam or something right here, because sometimes I'll put my shoulder there and push on it. But really, you're supposed to stand in front of the blade and push on it to get the most leverage. But if you're up against something, if your plow is up against, I'm going to put this plow against the wall here. May not be enough room for me to get in front of the blade, but you know, all in all, it has been a good plow. You know, it's very, very comfortable. I'm happy. I don't want to switch back to Western just because of those couple things, because it goes kind of back and forth. You know, I am curious now that I'm thinking about it, which one would be faster? Like, would the Western be faster if it rides up the pile a little better and stacks better? I do kind of remember the Western stacking snow a little better. So that would be one of the few complaints. I like the stainless steel look. That's pretty, you know, pretty nice. You having one of the best looking rigs out on the road at the time when we're, I mean, this is an XL truck, but this is one of the nicest looking trucks in the area when it's out there with the stainless steel and the silver. So it's a tough one. So anyway, guys, that's it for the video. It's that time of year. It's time to get the plows ready. I'll be putting a new cutting edge on it. I do want to say that these cutting edges, if you're looking into one of these plows, keep in mind that when you have to put a cutting edge on this plow, it's going to cost you a lot more than a regular plow, because you got the poly edges, which are expensive. You have your edge guards. This plow has guards here on the edge. Those are expensive. And the blade's going to cost double the money. You know, the blade's going to cost over $300 to replace. So anyway, guys, that's it for the video. Thank you for watching DS Trucks. There's a playlist on our 2019 F250 if you're interested in trucks that I'll link in the comment section. And subscribe to the channel, because we're going to be doing a lot more snow plowing stuff coming up. I'm thinking about doing the maintenance on this. I've never done it before myself, so I'm thinking about trying to tackle it myself. It doesn't seem too complicated. But thank you for watching, guys. See you in the next one. This is DS Trucks. We run nothing but the best. Over and out. Thanks for watching.